Okay, so now we'll get started. If you're here for organic chemistry, just kidding. We are here for how to have a professional website. Joe's not going to be talking about organic chemistry today. Thank you. Right? That's specifically funny for one of our attendees today who's in the healthcare space, and for a lot of nurses and professionals, that's the course that makes them sweat. I remember listening to my friends. So we're here for how to have a professional website with Joe Romello. And Joe, if you would be so kind as to go to the next slide so we can say our oath. I, Tiffany Joy Green, do solemnly swear to accept the lifelong obligation to hone my superhero powers and apply those superhero powers to the good of the people I serve. I will promote and add to the ongoing success of Empower People, its members, and the people, organizations, and communities it serves. I will help prepare the next generation of superheroes. I am driven to be a positive change agent for those I serve and interact with. So today our instructor is Joe Romello, or as I like to call him, In the Know Joe. Joe, he's about as close to omnipotent as you can get. Just kidding. That's pretty high standard, right, Joe? But he is in the know. So I'm passing now the baton over to Joe Romello, the all-knowing, in the know, Joe Romello.
Thanks, Tiffany. What a magnanimous introduction. Well, I can certainly live down to some of that. Today, we're going to talk about a website. Most people stare into this, look like a deer in the headlights. I'm going to try to take you through a very simple approach to this because it is rather simple, despite what your brother-in-law, your 14-year-old son, or all the people that want to sell you something are going to tell you. At the end of this, you'll understand how to evaluate needs, understand what a domain is, what mapping the website infrastructure looks like, hosting considerations, and then any questions that pop up, which are typically the most exciting part of these things. I'm going to pass over that. So before the have comes the need. Do you need a website? So the first question I would ask you, are you a business or an individual? And are you selling something? If you're not, then you're a blogger. And go take your opinions on any of the blog platforms and have a good time. But if you're interested in selling something, services, products, some sort of offering in exchange for money, then you need a website. And the reason why is because a website is an address of your business house on this thing called the internet. If people are introduced to you, they look at your business card, they want to get more information based on a presentation or a topic or a paper you wrote, they will Google you. They'll look for you personally, they'll look for you by your business.com name or whatever extension you choose, based on your email address. They'll look for you in social media. The only place where you get to tell your story, your business, your offerings, your products is on your website, because everything else is third-party information. It's hearsay. Reviews can be hyped, have been for decades. I know I was part of that as a retailer. Ratings can be hyped. You can pay to get high ratings. Social influences are just that. They're socially endowed to influence people. The only place where truth of your brand, your story, your products, your offerings is on your website, because you control it. So, sorry about that. Before you have a website, though, you need what's called a domain. If you look at Amazon, Amazon.com, Amazon is the domain. .com happens to be an extension. It could be Amazon.tv, Amazon.info. There's a bunch of domain prefixes that you can now buy. A domain is a universal resource locator in HTTPS speak. It's a URL. It is what identifies your address on the internet uniquely to you. So if you go to Microsoft.com or Amazon.com or Google.com, you get to what that brand decides to present to you based on arriving at that doorstep. Your domain is exclusively yours, and you need to own it. not through a third party, not through your friends. You need to own it. You need to control it. You need to manage it. You need to pay for it. They're cheap. It should be easy to remember. You don't want something that requires a dialect of a language or a translation or something like that. It should reflect your brand. So if you're in, the product space, it should be along the lines of a product you sell. In the product space, competitive offerings are just that, very competitive. A lot of domain squatters have bought up most of the interesting type domains. The way to nuance that is by adding either .tv, .info, or some other extension to the back. And you have to register it, which means you have to spend money to buy the domain name for a period of time. They can be had for as cheap as $1.99 a year. You can get those from a variety of registrars. So the what and the why is the easy part. Like I said, it's your address on the internet. That's how people will find you. A domain is obtained from a domain registrar, and there are only a handful in the world that are able to offer you a domain. I personally use GoDaddy. There are a variety of others out there. Do some domain registrar searches on Google, read the reviews, compare the prices, find it, and pick one. This isn't a hard process. You're going to find pennies of difference or dollars of difference. Make an informed decision. Don't waste a lot of time on this. The amount of money you're going to spend is going to be a pittance. So pick one and move forward. Register your domain. They'll ask you a series of questions. You'll need a Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo Mail or whatever your mail is in order to get this thing going. And then once you get your domain, you then get to set up email from any number of email hosting providers. I use GoDaddy. Go out there, Google email hosters, find one, pick one. Don't waste a lot of time on this. They're cheap. They're economical. Pick one that has real ratings and real reviews. So pick one that you recognize, like GoDaddy or Bluehost or one like that. Then you're going to need some applications, Word, spreadsheets. You have your choice between Microsoft and Google Apps. You make the decision. The good news is Google has publicly affirmed that they do not read business application content, only your personal content. So if you have a Gmail address and you have documents and PowerPoints and private messages, Google is reading all of those. They're fattening up their AI engines. They're selling your data to third parties for targeted campaigns. None of that Gmail data, related data, apps, or anything else is private to you, notwithstanding what your brother-in-law has told you. If you buy a domain name and you park email using Gmail as the email provider under that domain, then Google affirms publicly that they don't use that data. I'm somewhat skeptical, but that's a decision you have to make. Now with a domain, your address on the internet, and some sort of email provider, now you can start thinking about your site. And the sites are very easy. You need a logo. This is probably where you're going to need, if you're not a creative type, and I am not, where you're going to have to spend 50 or 100 or 150 bucks to get a logo. You can see the Empower logo that Tiffany spent money on in the lower right-hand corner of that slide. It can be as simple as just a circle with your last letter of your name or your brand in it, or it can be somewhat complex. This, I would submit, is where you have to spend money initially, other than buying the domain, signing up for app services, and getting an email hosting provider. After that, you need a way for them to contact you. Well, you went off earlier and got an email address at yourbrand.com, so now you know how to tell them to contact you. You can also provide a phone number. You can provide a physical mailing address if you so choose. Doesn't matter, but people, when they run across your site, have to have a mechanism to get and interact with you. Put a copyright on it so nobody steals your information and uses it against you. Then you want to tell a story about us. These are pretty standard headings that you'll see across most websites. People like me and you are trained to look for about us in context. We look at it typically where? In the footer. We scroll down to the bottom. There's typically on one side or the other, in the middle, about us, contact us. Here's our products and services catalog. You'll need a privacy policy in terms of use. My suggestion is go find one that you like, copy it, change it to your specific brand. Don't plagiarize it. Copy it, change it, and use those. If you want to get an attorney to review it, that's up to you. I would doubt that if you're starting out, you're going to have a lot of privacy information you have to worry about, and your terms of use are going to be pretty standard. You agree that you can use the website, they can collect information on you because you're probably going to put Google Analytics on your site to get some insight. Maybe not at the beginning. I would highly recommend against it because, again, it costs money. But you will have to put some sort of terms of use just to CYA. And then you need a way for people to indicate interest in you. You got to contact us. So tell them, send us an email, give us a phone call. We want to hear from you. You now have on this chart everything you need to put up your website. Your website doesn't have to be pages and pages and pages. It has to be a page so that when somebody knocks on your door, they see something about your brand, something about the products or services you offer or intend to offer. This is no different than a coming soon sign that you see on most retail brands physically, where they put up the brand logo and they say coming soon. And you stop back and you check because you're driving by. This is the equivalent of that. It can be as simple as a page. Could be as complex as 1,000 pages. Go to Nike.com and look for product. Go to a sporting goods retailer. Go to Major League Baseball. Go to National Public Radio. Gobs and gobs and gobs of content. But again, this is to focus them on you and your brand. So I doubt that you're going to have the breadth of any of those larger brands. You may. God bless you. But focus this on what specifically you offer, what types of clients you want to interact with, what types of products or services you're offering. Keep it simple. So what are the steps to bring it alive? You went off and registered a domain. You parked it on a hosting provider so that you could have a website. You have apps that allow you to get and send email. At this point, all you really need to do is put up a simple templated page. Again, I use GoDaddy. There are others out there. GoDaddy offers what's called templated sites. They manage everything. They give you little boxes to put your data in. If you go to a templated website from GoDaddy, you'll find the homepage, which is the page that everybody sees when they hit domain.com. And then you'll see an About Us page, which is where you tell your story about us. They'll see a Contact Us page, which is where you put your email and your phone number if you so choose. And then they'll give you templates for products or services or whatever. It's basically just a blank page where you free script whatever you want to convey as terms of products and services. You can put pictures in there. You can put prices in there or not. It's, again, up to you depending on your brand. And at that point, you're ready to go. 2-3 pages at most for a website. 2-3 pages at most. Keep it simple. You are saving money. You don't have a lot to spend when you're starting out. Don't waste money. Spend it on the things that matter. You need a presence. You don't need a Mona Lisa. Keep it simple. Now everybody's going to come up and say, oh, but I've heard about I need a CRM, I need SEO, I need to buy ads, I need to do this. At this point, if you're bringing it up the first day, you need to worry about none of that unless you've got thousands of customers. How are you tracking your companies and customers today? Either you're doing it on a piece of paper, you're doing it in a spreadsheet, you don't have complex CRM. You're not looking for interrelationships or demographic profiles. You're not looking at National Institute identifiers. You're not looking at any sort of ISO standards for these companies. You're starting out knocking on the door. Basically, you've got a briefcase. You're walking around asking people for business. So don't get overwhelmed by the CRM thing. Don't get overwhelmed by the SEO thing. You don't need that for quite some time, I would surmise. Now, everybody's going to tell me, oh, no, I need a CRM for this because I used it in my last job. Questions I have about that is if you're starting out your brand today, how many customers did your old brand have, the company you used to work for? Do you have that many? If you do, maybe you do need a CRM. If you don't, I would submit that, again, along the lines of KISS, you just don't need to waste money on a CRM. The cheapest CRMs cost you money, even when they say they're free. Not a one on the market today is free. They all come with cost. Read down in the fine print far enough, you'll find the cost. Or wait after 3 months and you'll get the bill. So, in summary, what I want to tell you is that you and your product services are being sold. To do that, to sell a single product, you need a website, which means you need a domain. You should have some identity for a logo. You need a way for people to communicate with you electronically, which we call email. You need to host that somewhere. All of that in combination, except for the logo, because that's something that you yourself will choose, I would tell you will cost you less than $100 annually. If you're spending more than that, then you're probably making some inopportune choices. These things aren't really expensive. Go to GoDaddy.com right now, search for your brand name and see if it's taken. If it is taken, you could buy it. Some of these brand names go for up to $1 million each. None of them have I ever seen where there's demand that go for under $1,000. So go domain shopping. There's a function on GoDaddy called Who is this domain.com, and they'll tell you. They'll also offer you alternatives. You could have this domain with .tv or .info or .org or .whatever. Make a considered evaluation when you choose. You need a basic capability to present your story. You don't need a lot of fancy videos unless you're in video presentation. You don't need a lot of creative graphics unless you're a creative graphic type. But if you're selling products and services, especially services, you don't need a big, complex, hairy site that's hard to maintain. Basically, tell people what you do, ask them to contact you. You can do all of that in a single page. This isn't hard. Anything beyond that, these things can be money pits. I used to sell these as a profession. I know how to rope you in. I know how to rake you over the coals and take your money. What you want to do is get something up on the internet so that people can find you and interact with you. What you really want to spend money on is finding customers, not some hairy, crazy website. So that's the end of my presentation. It's mostly guidance about keep it simple, keep the reins on, don't go crazy over this stuff. It isn't hard to put up a website. You can typically do it in less than a day. The heavy lifting is all done by the hosting providers, and they have templates that can spit these things out in minutes. Pick a templated site. So if there are any questions?
Before we get
fabricate
into-
an answer or make an answer.
Before we get into questions, I'm going to stop the Facebook Live. So I want to thank everybody who popped in on the Facebook Live and joined us. If you're not a current Empower People member, I encourage you to join for free. I dropped the link in the comments so you can too participate in the Q&A. Thank you.